lost in time and space. We live in this eternity because the secret is out. We chose to be here and live. We're time-soaked, Jonas drowned and drenched in the personal, twisted lives of celebrities, winning awards and starring in commercials, selling meat and blood and cars and guns and pretending to be well and happy in the power of now.
That's the journey part.
Right.
That's the part when, which part is battling to speak inside of you. Remember, we're acting out the splits. We have been consumed. We ain't consuming nothing. We have been consumed by time. And time ain't gonna run out. We may run out, but time ain't gonna run out. It ain't got nothing to do with race or gender or sexual orient. We are all time-soaked Jonas. The sad part is if you hurt any one of these parts, you really hurting who?
Myself.
Well, exactly. So that's the tension in the piece for you.
The sun is dying
Again.
The sun is dying to be born again.
I had this thing about finding poets in particular so that the words would be more than just spoken. They would be felt. Actors can sometimes take a script and they can speak the words and they can convince an audience on a superficial level, but if you working with a poet has the ability to knock on the door opens, and then they're not afraid to step in. So
he's always was this elemental cat, like he's like a force of nature. And people who see him and just focus on that surface can sleep on it. They don't realize how well-read he is and how deep he is and how voracious he is. He's kind of one of these kind of cats who can associate all different things that don't look like they, you know, are things you can associate with, but he just rocks them.
No bullets left. We used them all, killing ourselves on the streets of America.
I pay homage to the skill level that it takes to be a performer, but I know they also are the kind of people who just experiment. And this experience that we're getting ready to do here, this man in the belly of a slave ship from Angola to Angola, I mean, I'm learning a lot of history that I frankly thought I already knew. That's how sensitive he is. That's how arcane he is. He's telling us stories about the last slave ship to come over here came from Angola. The cat who purportedly owned those human beings established a plantation after the purchase of the Louisiana Purchase. I'm like, what? I didn't know this. And then he calls the damn plantation the same name as the people, as where they're from, Angola.
But I will write you love letters from this private hell as it becomes this jail cell.
this piece is about one of the last shipments of slaves that actually made it to the U.S. and were brought to the plantation Angola. And Angola never stopped being a plantation because it went straight from being a plantation to a prison that is still operational and functioning today in Louisiana. So, because the wall is really the bottom of the slave ship. If you were on a vertical plane, you would be looking down into the belly of the slave ship and you would see how it was a tight pack. And that plaque of them racks, they started to stack them up and things like that. To me, it's all an abstract drawing of the bottom of a slave ship, which was important to speak to somehow. It's also speaking to the idea that we are all time-based slaves. We all have so many seconds that we're going to be here on this planet. So slavery has that connotation too. What are your hopes and dreams in the time period that you were born and how you live it out what you achieve, what's of value to you. And I'm trying to conjure up and connect with the positive male imagery, like the skeletal form of Toussaint, who beheaded the colonial oppressor. And Haiti today is one of the poorest nations in the New World, but it was the first black free republic in the New World. It's about the psychic connection of water and hurricanes bringing madness and water absorbing memories and forming the ma'afa, the suffering of the transatlantic slave trade.
The enemy. I was the ugly child that became the hungering lion, not the Lion King. I am the visitation, a demon from the pit of hell to deceive you. I will use truth to make you fall in love with yourself. And you, money, for doing it so well. Your cells will attract me, call me to wherever you are, even at the wedding feast. I am the 13th Imam, marrying Jesus in the church. I birthed the nation, birthed the tales you translated into the Knights of the Round Table, your fear of the Black Knight in the black hat, while listening to the ticking of the black clock, who will knock on the black door of the Electoral Commission, your election, counting all the hanging chads. I bring you salt and gold. The most merciful will reveal to you, like the prophet, his days of judgment. You are his 13th Ahmadi. I submit to you. Will you? What does this world come to? You, a president of the United States? I hunger for your victory.
You have to have a bit of madness, a touch of madness, to want to be president of the United States of America.
Right. I mean, you just super corporate.
Right.
Which is you're not doing anything to help.
Right.
You're a Condoleezza Rice. That's all he is.
So, is it gonna fix things as far as?
That's what I'm saying. It's super corporate, so it's not fixing things. It's the slave master. It's you become the slave master.
Right.
Dig that.
And then I become Buford Quarles, the owner of the Angola plantation. The founder of the Angola plantation made his life and his living on breeding slaves. So he bred slaves and sold slaves and worked slaves and just kept on making more slaves. He provided slaves. His goal was to provide slaves to the West. He was capitalizing on the new market of slaves, about populating the West with slaves, which had not been done yet. And so he just bred the hell out of them, and that just meant rape. I mean, he was probably one of the greatest rapists of all time. Raped women left and right and called it breeding. And that's where, I mean, now I'm speaking outside of the character, but that's where I came from, where a lot of us came from. He rather takes pride in it. He's related to Warren in that. That's his relation to Warren, that greed covering up life. He just wanted and wanted and wanted and wanted and never wanted to give. And he justified it to himself to say, I'm giving this, I'm giving that, I'm giving that, but all he did was take and take and take, and he loved it. He loved every minute of it.
So y'all gotta work out y'all love-hate relationship, and tonight it's gonna be the physical part. Y'all already got the intellectual part, and you approach the emotional part, which is always the fire. And to be honest, I don't want you guys to exhaust yourselves emotionally.
So I started working with the words and with the people and with Keith. And I'm not kissing his ass or anything. I still think he's crazy, motherfucker.
And I remember praying to God that I would come back when that whore's offspring rose up. And it all came back. as that dust collapsed on my white ass.
I started seeing how it works. It's an organic process through the words. In the words, he's a poet. And he was talking shit about actors. I'm an actor, he's a poet. He's talking shit about that. It's like actors, they don't know what they're doing with words. They don't work with words. But I like a challenge. I stayed, I kept on saying, there's something else here. This story that he tells, that I get to tell, is one that resonates to any American. It's an American story that needs the aggression. There's no other way to tell it because it's born of such aggression. The story is about aggression. It's like telling a bank robbery, telling a story about a bank robbery without even talking about money, without talking about greed, without talking about taking. It's a story about all of that. It's a story that needs to be told, and he has a voice to tell it. And he wrote that voice down. And now I have to find a way to bring his story alive, but I get a chance to bring my own story alive. It's an amazing process, and it makes you feel like shit. I'm finding fun. I'm finding history. I'm finding out things about myself. I'm finding out things I didn't want to find out about myself. You can run away from it. You can fight it. You can try not to be this person that is inside of you. But at the end, you have to face up to him. You have to look him straight in the face and say, I am you. You are me. But I'm better than you. That's it.
Y'all mama, nigga loving 9, got started through my efforts. The Angola plantation was transformed. About the time that Haiti was beginning to think of itself as a free black nation.
Because the point is, how can he exist? He's the one that's your delusion.
So the reason why I really dig the piece is the science fiction elements, the realism elements, the boot-toe in it. And this is the dopest writer on the planet as far as playmaking. I mean, if people don't know about
Playmaking.
playmaking.
It's playmaking. I like to play.
When I saw what I was doing as being a part of plays,
Right.
as part of being a part of staging a play and just regurgitating just a thing as opposed to you become it as an actor, but when you dealing with your own shit and you trying to purge and you trying to understand and you trying to give up, because every part of your life you're not really freeing up.
Right.
So when you are allowed to be in a space where you can allow questions to be answered because you just let go,
Right.
that's a healing process. And the healing process is not just for us. The healing process is for the people that are in the space.
Right.
The cathartic,
Empathize.
yeah,
Right.
the whole cathartic movements is supposed to.
There are all those lines in the piece where the Sufis say, you become what you see.
Right.
And Jesus said, you become what you think.
Right.
So, y'all two got to work out the love-hate thing. So let's hear some words.
Courageous people, I'm asking you just to be a little braver inside yourselves. This is not the same old book. This is a brand new book. We, as the American people, a brave people from the start of this new century, we remember the failures of dynasties. Some wanted to secure a better police state, to secure our liberty, but what they meant to tell you is that it was to secure and seize an American empire. I'm dealing with my most vulnerable space.
Right.
And battling against the weakest space that I have within myself.
Right.
At the most vulnerable time of my life to either die or fight.
Right.
your boy. How you doing? I'm here. You are me. You can be nothing but me because you come from me.
Right.
There's all these things that I'm fighting with.
Right. So he has to have some redeemable quality. What is it? Gotta be some. Survival is a redeemable in and of itself.
It's that animal instinct.
That's a noble quality. He knew how to survive then. He took the swamp. It wasn't easy making that plantation. And he tell you how nasty it was. If it took the dead remains of African slaves, he put them in the ground. They became fertilized. He had to have fertilizer. Maybe he didn't have no fertilizer that year. So what did he start buying? Dead African babies. You understand? Now that's twisted, right?
Yeah.
But he took that land and made it what? Profitable.
Right. That's what I have to do.
How you gonna survive? You need who? You need
need
that
him.
that part that knows how to do what?
Survive.
It's self-loathing.
Yeah, it's self-loathing.
It's different than hate. Hate can be objective. Self-loathing is very subjective. You think that there is nothing wrong with you, and I'm trying to make you, Barracks Obama, understand it's something wrong.
It's totally, yeah.
And it's you got to reveal yourself through this hardship. And these Chinese torturers ain't really doing shit to affect you because they ain't on the level in which you self-torturing yourself. The external things that make you be Barack Obama versus the things internal that makes you be Barack Obama. It's a jigsaw puzzle that keeps putting itself together and then tearing itself apart.
Right.
Okay? You got tonight, physically, I want to see you start playing. You ain't the hero. Because ain't Obama going to have to invade Pakistan if he want to get Al-Qaeda. Yeah. How many 18-year-olds going to have to die in Afghanistan? Because he got to bring back the what? The draft to get. Because where the heroin, the poppy is going to be turned into heroin, and what's the first community that's going to get the new heroin?
The soldiers.
Okay.
It's always them that get hit first. The dementia period is darker.
Right,
It's getting darker.
right.
Right.
Towards the end, are you sane or are you insane?
Towards the end,
The end of this ritual, are you sane or are you insane?
I'm accepting.
Accepting what? Your sanity?
Yes.
What remains of it?
Right.
And it's frayed, right? See, it's little victories he's got.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? And he knows it. Who's the hero? Who turns out to be the hero? You keeping him alive. Warren. What does Warren say at the end?
As the days got closer, the security around him tightened. Neighbors started acting up to his protests, civil rights, entitlements. They sounded like radical Republicans.
Christian. This is Ellis Rice. Ellis
Hey,
Rice,
Bob,
this
how
is
you doing?
Christian.
Good. How are you?
And he's gonna start recording a moment, or you telling him how you founded the Hittite Empire. Y'all have a good time.
I'm here in Los Angeles this week to commemorate the 20th year anniversary of the Hittite Empire. For me, it was a work that changed my life and gave me a set of principles and a way of approaching community and community-based work in a way that I feel was an important contribution. I think it's a good idea to commemorate the idea of who we were as the Hittites, and for those young brothers who are continuing to work in the various forms that they are.
I was going through some things. I was still trying to walk. By the time I was walking, Keith had me on stage at the California Plaza, downtown LA at Mocha. Very important thing is, between that time, he had lost 9 or 11 members of the Hittite Empire from them killing each other because he was working with the gangs. When he reunited with me and Kev, he turned around and he wasn't gonna let that happen. He wasn't gonna let us go out there and die on the streets without telling our stories. He said before we die, we were gonna be able to tell our stories, our greatest secrets, and we were gonna be able to travel the world, and he wound up allowing us to do that.
Michael Woods was one of the original founders. Started in basically Forest Park on Hippie Hill in St. Louis with this idea that we could actually make a difference by presenting works that were relevant to the Black American experience. This was pre-African Americanism. That led to us producing works on the Webster College campus where we all met as members of the conservatory and the departments there. We did all original works, primarily Keith's writings, Michael's expertise as well as mine, to make these writings become theater pieces. We then migrated out to Los Angeles in 1983. Then we did some work here, community-based work. And then in 1987, Keith had discovered a quality of work, a methodology, which was performance art. From those conversations and that transformation, we became the Hittite Empire, to always raise questions about contemporary issues. And that's why we're here this week, to continue that.
One of the things he taught us, Keith really taught us, is that it's hard for us to say stories that don't have any meaning, especially being young African-American males in the United States. It's hard for us to say something that doesn't have any meaning.
I ran my ass straight to Spain, Doc. But when God's talking to you, and you know when God, and you know that God is talking to you.
Keeping those traditions alive and then turning it into performance art ritual versus just theater. It goes beyond the boundaries of theater. It goes beyond the boundaries of performance art.
Keep it short, but Keith he's beyond his time. He's trendsetter for real. I think of him as a genius. You know what I'm saying? The way he's artistic. We know our lives are gonna be changed. When I left here yesterday, I felt so good. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be great.
In the period of time that we've been together, we affected a lot of people's lives. Some good and some perhaps not so good. I don't really get into the judgmental, qualitative nature of the language. People experience it for where they are.
It was no philosophy. What happened, we got a chance to go to Atlanta and work in the first free Black community, and they had a storyteller, and he told us all these stories, and it was a story circle around him, and he made sure that all these different generations were in that storytelling place. And then it just hit me that we could go from city in city and do that process with what we were doing. And in order to get funding, people were calling us performance artists and theater artists. And yes, we had the training and the expertise to be called those things. But the part about making sure that people got a chance to tell their own stories and present them in the communities where they could empower themselves to speak, that really got born in Atlanta from seeing that old storyteller know all the young people's names that was in the story, all the way up to a person who was older than him, knowing all their names, and being able to tell all those stories about the neighborhood and how it had changed from the end of the Civil War up until the time of the early 90s. And I just said we could go to different cities, work with young people and get them to start their own storytelling circles or their own individual groups, but we had to first do it in Los Angeles.
I guess the sort of the jewel of what you do. You never know who you're going to affect and who remembers it. This particular piece here is a new piece. I think it's relevant because the work that we have always done had a contemporary edge. That whole idea of what's important, supporting art, supporting artists, supporting the idea of new works, supporting ideas. And hopefully in that context it'll make somewhat of a difference to somebody.